Welcome to the ALS Therapy Development Institute EndPoints Podcast. I'm Erin Stevens. I'm a development manager here at ALS TDI. I work in the Cambridge location, so I'm here in the lab. And I'm talking to Roy Taylor and his son Terence, all the way from Ireland. And Roy is a musician who is living with ALS and is an awesome advocate in the ALS MND community. Thank you both for hopping on the line with me.
Pleasure. Thank you, Erin.
Thanks a lot.
So, Roy, can you tell us a little bit about your story, just how you were diagnosed, what were your first symptoms, and sort of what your reaction was?
Sure. Well, I was diagnosed on the 12th of April, 2018. And I guess up to a year before then, I was beginning to feel weak, tired, lethargic. I'd lost a lot of weight. And as a musician, I was used to carrying equipment, and it became heavier and heavier. And like most people, I suppose, I had many tests done, scopes up and scopes down, and you name it. I had the procedure all the time coming back with, good results. Everything's okay. And finally, fortunately through my son Terence, and through his work, he knew a Professor Costello who works with the respiratory end of things, because one of my symptoms is in the respiratory end of things. And he got me an appointment. I went to see him, and without him saying it, he knew rather quickly that it was ALS. So he arranged another appointment with one of Ireland's, and indeed one of the world's top neurologists, Professor Orla Hardiman. And I went to see her about a week later, which was then the 12th of April, and I got the diagnosis of ALS.
So how long was that process from your first symptoms until that April 12th, 2018?
I'm guessing slowly but surely about a year, Erin.
Okay.
And we had absolutely no idea when we went in to see Professor Hardiman that it was ALS. We had absolutely no idea. We went in quite open-minded. I was told that it would be something in the neurological end of things. It could be something minor to maybe something more serious. That's the way Professor Costello put it to me, because it wasn't his job to diagnose me. But at the same time, he knew it was, but he was, I guess, marking my card.
Yeah.
And so we went in with quite an open mind. But as the conversation went on, I could see it's getting closer to the diagnosis,
So before this whole experience, did you know really anything about ALS or MND?
Well, my brother-in-law passed away with the disease about 7 years ago.
Oh, wow.
And that was the first time I ever heard of it. And as you know, it's known as MND here in Ireland, in the UK. And so I was told my brother-in-law had motor neuron disease. It meant absolutely nothing to me. And his was quite progressive. In fact, from diagnosis, he passed a year and 3 days.
Oh my gosh.
So that's when I was aware of it. And, it was something I always said. I remember talking to a friend of mine, a real good friend of mine, over a few drinks one night. We said, how long do you think you'll live for? And I said, well, if I get to mid-70s with a good life, I'll be happy. And he was saying, well, I reckon I'll make it to about 90. And then we said, what do you think? And I said, well, one thing I'd hate to get is ALS, because I've seen my brother-in-law with that disease.
Oh.
And lo and behold, what do I get? The jackpot.
My gosh. And how old are you now, Roy?
I'm 62. Extremely good looking, Erin. It's a pity you can't see me.
Oh, I've seen your music videos.
Okay. Oh, well, then you know. That's completely blemished by software.
Well, I'm sure that you've also, how do you find it so interesting, seeing your brother-in-law go through this disease progression, and how do you feel about how it seems to be very different for you? I mean, you've been living with this disease for over a year now. and you're
Oh,
still
yeah.
talking well. So tell me a little bit about kind of your perspective on the differences in progression from, your experience that you've seen.
Right. Well, from diagnosis, obviously you investigate a lot more. And we learned fairly quickly. I mean, to be honest, it probably took me about a month to get my head around it at all. It was completely just surreal that this was happening to me. But then, slowly but surely, I said, look, going to have to do some positive things here. Can't sit around and let this thing bite the backside of me. You have to fight back. And that's what we start doing. But I learned that every case is different.
Right.
And I use the analogy here that a lot of people have caught on to. I use the analogy that ALS is like a raindrop on a window pane. It can start at the top. It can move very slowly. It can go left a little bit, right a little bit. It can stop, and it can stop for a very long time. In fact, it can stop altogether, or it can decide to make a charge. So that's the analogy I make with ALS.
That's a really, really good analogy. I haven't heard that before, but it's a really, really great description. Thanks for sharing.
Because when you meet different people with the disease, it's incredible. Like, I know you met the amazing Andy McGovern.
Yes.
He is phenomenal.
Oh,
Nobody told him it was a 1,000-day disease. He must have picked it up as a 1,000-year disease. Because you want to see this guy. He's incredible, and he's so positive about everything. He's a good person to be around.
Oh. So how has your relationships changed since you were diagnosed, especially with Terence being there and being your son? How have people around you kind of reacted?
Well, Terence has literally been my right-hand man. He was there in the room when I was diagnosed, and he's kind of basically steered the ship. He has looked into every single angle of this. There's no stone left unturned. And we have a great relationship now with my neurologist, Professor Orla Hardiman. In fact, our own initiative, we work alongside her now to raise awareness and to raise funds to research ALS. But Terence has been incredible, and we're on this journey together.
Yeah, Erin, I remember early on after my dad was actually, when he was diagnosed, it's a huge shock. And as everybody does, you go straight to Google, and it's not great reading for any family member when, a loved one is diagnosed with ALS. But I remember I was on your site, the ALS TDI site, and I came across the forums, which are really, really excellent. And there's so much information from so many advocates worldwide. But something that really resonated with me, that you guys seem to have as a slogan, is that ALS is not incurable, it's underfunded. Mm-hmm. And I think that's so powerful, and that really stuck with me. And I think that's kind of the basis for our whole initiative, Watch Your Back MND, or Watch Your Back ALS, is that, it is really just underfunded. And if we can get enough support, we can get something over the line that can, it doesn't have to be, the disease it is currently. And I believe soon, in the not too distant future, that, something will happen once we get the funding.
And in fact, on this side of the world, Erin, neurologists are quite excited because for the first time in many years, they're just tinkling on the edge of success. Mm-hmm. With, over on this side of the world, there's a lot of emphasis on the repurposed drugs. In other words, drugs for a disease. For example, the most famous one being Viagra. Most people forget why it was originally manufactured. Now it puts smiles on millions of faces around the world. And likewise, a drug there for prostate, they discovered a couple of weeks ago, now may well help people with Parkinson's. Another drug there last week has just come available for people with dementia. They reckon would slow it down dramatically. And likewise with ALS MND, there's various drugs. For example, the Trimec, which went on trial in Australia, was quite successful trials going on with that. So they're quite excited about it. And I know my own neurologist, Professor Hardman, she doesn't sugarcoat anything. And it takes a lot for her to convince and get behind something. But even seeing her a little bit excited at the moment is good news for me.
Oh, absolutely. I think that in this, community in general, researchers that are working with ALS are willing to go outside the box and really explore options. And I feel like it's, if they don't have a personal connection, I know our researchers, it's almost like a big puzzle to crack that they want to be the ones to crack it. So people are working really, really hard to do so. And we're so lucky. ALS looks very different today than it did even, 10, 15 years ago.
I mean, there's obstacles all the way, even with the name.
Mm-hmm.
Here in Ireland, Australia, it's MND. In the States, it's ALS. In Europe, it has another name. So from the word go, there's confusion.
Right.
It's difficult. And then, of course, like in Ireland, there's approximately 380 people suffering with ALS. And as you probably know, I'm sure the balance is the same in the States. Unfortunately, 2 or 3 people a week are diagnosed. But again, unfortunately, on the other end, 2 or 3 people pass each week.
Right.
Or the balance doesn't change that much, except obviously more people become aware of it because, friends and loved ones, there's a lot more people getting to know, there's more people getting the disease. So there's a lot of work to be done, but Terence and I are coming from a positive point of view. There's so much negativity. It's important that people realize for the first time probably ever, there's now actually a chance, a small possibility, a reality that we might get to the bottom of this. And that's wonderful. And hence the song came about. That's basically my story, how I felt about it. And doom and gloom at the beginning. Oh man, look what I've got. I say, hang on a second. I'm not going to sit back and let this just take a hold of me. I'm going to fight back here. And as Andy McGovern says, ALS absolutely hates it when its victims are happy or smiling. And he's right. The more positive things you do, the better your body feels, the more chance you have of fighting this disease. And I think the good thing about the song is the wonderful response we're getting from around the world is the positivity people are getting from it. Not only from ALS, I've had cancer patients emailing me saying, you know what, I was diagnosed with breast cancer. I thought my world had ended. But then I heard you and your song. I said, wow, if he can do it, surely I can fight this.
That's amazing. I think it's really cool also that it's hard to get outside of the ALS community as far as awareness, and especially with funds and raising funds and things like that. So it's really cool that you paired a passion of yours, music, with this cause. And so, so you can.
I'm sure I'm sure in the States it's the same here. When I was diagnosed and I said I want to do something, almost every TV advert break here, there's a charitable plea on TV for something. Mm-hmm. It could be a donkey, a cat, a dog, various diseases, horrible things that are happening in the world, all good causes, but they're all very heavy, hard hitting, and people are sitting having their dinner saying, hey, just give me a break for a minute, please, And I wanted to take a different approach, a warm approach, to let people know it's very important. This is a really serious matter. But look, this is how I'm fighting it. So that people will see, look at this guy. He's got ALS. He's singing a song. Here, let me look at this. Not switch off while they're having their dinner.
Oh, yeah. I absolutely love it. I had a smile on my face the entire time. I've watched it 3 times. Do you think that are you continuing writing music and performing now?
Yes. I don't know if Terence told you, but he's an amazing musician and singer also.
Oh, runs in the family.
Check him out on YouTube. His band is called Hope.
Absolutely will.
Yeah.
I swear I wasn't prompting him to say that.
It's like Dad's been getting all of the attention. That's really awesome. So what advice would you guys give to other people impacted by ALS, whether they get a diagnosis or it's a family member. It sounds like you definitely want to share the, strength and positivity. What else would you tell them?
Without a doubt, Erin, you're absolutely right. You don't sit down. You have two choices. You roll up in a ball or you roll up your sleeves. And I decided to roll up my sleeves. And if you take that approach, you're giving yourself a better chance. And to look for positivity every single day. It can be as simple as having a shower, having a laugh, whatever sparks your day. All of those things hurt ALS. They don't like to see you happy. Try and stay as positive as you can. And that's why the song is out there. Feeling down, have a listen to it. That guy has ALS. He's going to beat it. And I'm going to help others beat it.
Terence, what would you say as a family member?
Yeah, I think I'd echo what my dad said, Erin. I think, we're not putting all our efforts into this just to be doing something. Some people have said to me, well, it's nice for you to be doing something, to kind of take our minds off my dad having ALS, but that's not the case. I mean, we're putting all our efforts into this because I know in the future, we don't know, it's not a question of if, it is a matter of when we defeat ALS. And, if we all band together, I believe something will happen in the not too distant future. We don't know when, but it will happen. And, I do dream of somebody at some point in some clinic around the world where they're sitting with their dad or their mother like I had to, and they're told, okay, your dad has ALS, but we now have treatment for this. And that's something we both dream of. And I know the day will come where that dream will become a reality. So keep the positivity going because it's worth the fight. It really is.
Absolutely. That's some of the language that we use a lot here at ALS TDI is fight. We have t-shirts and we use it in a lot of our messaging. And awesome. We are fighting right alongside both of you. Please know that.
Thank you.
That's great to know.
Absolutely. All right. So to listen to more episodes of the EndPoints podcast, you can visit als.net/endpoints. Thank you both for being here.
Absolute pleasure, Erin.
Thank you, Erin. Bye.